Well, look at us go. And we're going to go and have a good conversation today. I'm so happy to be here with all of you, Eric Culpepper, Billy DeVille, Landon Hendricks, Black business owners. And so we're going to have a conversation today because one of the things we've all been talking about, how do we strengthen Black businesses? Because we know Black owned businesses are a growing force. They're a growing force in U.S. economy. We drive innovation, job creation, we boost economic recovery. But despite all of this growth, we still face challenges and obstacles. We still face, and one of the big challenges, because there are many that we're going to talk about over the course of time, but one of them is networking. And so today, let's focus on networking because, Eric, I know you were talking about that earlier, and Billy was nodding her head in agreement. Landon, you know about that. So let's have that conversation. So anybody that wants to just start talking about what is the importance of networking to strengthen and grow Black businesses?
Yeah, let me jump in a little bit. And networking or professional networking is really in my background and my forte. Um, I come from a marketing background. I've been in corporate sales most of my life. And one of the things that I realized is that if you really want to forge deals, you have to be able to know how to connect and network with other people and how to create resources through alliances with other people. Um, there's a difference between casual relationships and having professional networking, and it's okay to have casual relationships and things like that with your business colleagues, but when you forge a professional networking relationship, you have a vested interest to see each other do well. You have a personal stake in each other's success. So it's a little different. You are more committed to seeing each other actually thrive. And so, what I've seen in my organization, my nonprofit, is that what we try to do is create an action plan for the Black community to network in a way that will forge bonds, that would create these alliances so that we would have resources, even when the economy is not favorable for us and things may dip down and things may get difficult and funds are tight. What happens is when you forge those relationships, it opens up other doors for opportunities because you never know who you don't know. And, it's like the 60
Mm-hmm.
degrees of separation. So when you got other people that are in your network, you're actually creating a net. So you see when like fishermen go out, they don't take just one string to try to, bring in a whole bunch of fish. They create a net and they can be able to actually bring in more with that net. Networking is the same concept. But what we see is the problem is that, we kind of work in silos or we're very transactional. So what happens is, we'll have horse blinders on with, chasing after market share and, going after, more business and things of that nature. And you're missing the opportunities by connecting with other Black people who are in the same boat. And so, but when you forge those alliances, you can see that it opens up more doors, it segue into more opportunities. You have more connection to the people in your community that look like we do. And so it opens a lot of doors. So, that
You
I
know,
always advocate for, networking amongst our people as another means of being able to do business development.
Oh, that's interesting because a lot of people think networking is just having fun. And while you can enjoy yourself while you're doing that, it's really important. And I remember last week we were sitting around talking, and Billy, one of the things you talked about was you had been down in Atlanta. You were in a much larger city where a lot of things are happening, and there are more of us that are doing some things. And then you came back home and you were talking about what that was like as far as the networking, and it was more difficult. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, in Atlanta, I seen more opportunity because people were, first of all, they were unafraid to go for their dreams.
Okay.
They weren't so stuck on what was around them versus home. We have only
Mm-hmm.
so much here in Flint that is seen as an opportunity or to create or to be something or somebody. But there, I've seen people creating opportunities for themselves, and then I've seen people not being afraid to share and help other people and pull other people up. And I think when you are in a smaller city, it's almost, every man for themselves.
So, exactly.
That mentality around here where people, they don't necessarily want to help. They want to remain their position and stay on top, and they don't want to have people, too close to them because they want to maintain what they have. And there, people were just um, welcoming, and they were teaching me without me even asking. They wanted me to have the same knowledge. They wanted me to have the same opportunities because it wasn't a scarcity mindset there. So coming back home, it's been much harder because of the mentality here. And networking, for some people, it feels intrusive because they don't want you too close to them because they think they want what you want what they have, and that's not necessarily
Hmm.
true. For me at least, I know I want what I want. I don't want what someone else has. We don't even want the same things.
Hmm.
So um, it has been difficult. I found my lane in makeup,
Right.
corporate makeup, versus being a freelancer, so to speak. So,
But one of the things that I recognized that you did that I thought was really good was you said this is what I've been doing, but I'm going to create another opportunity for myself. And that's what you did as far as I'm going to call it stage or performance makeup. I don't know what the professional term is, but you said I'm not going to just stay one dimensional. I'm going to go over here
right.
and create some opportunities for myself. But just, I think that speaks to that, that was good for you to do that. But
Yeah.
it just speaks to how we have to be creative. But what could have happened if we are networking? I mean, Landon, you go around to a lot of different places. What do you see?
Um, well, I'm really on track with that same thing that Billy said. It's like I've always wondered why we don't, and I don't really know whether it's a Flint thing. I actually thought about this a couple of days ago. I was like, man, is it just a Flint thing? Because when I go to Detroit, Detroit gives me love. And they're like, yo, if you build a studio right here, I got somebody that'll bring in audio equipment. I got people that know people with, this and that, but it has to be for Detroit. Like we can get grants and we can get this and that. And so I get, there's a place in Tennessee called, well, Chattanooga, Tennessee, but Gatlinburg I go to a lot and do shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was going down there, people were like, you do photography? And so people were like, I can get you business doing this and that. So I got business flying my drone around factories and, just doing other stuff. But this was from a photographer. He's like, I can't do everything by myself. Like, I know people that need these things. Can you fly a drone? I'm like, yeah. So I went back and I was able to get different types of business doing that. But here in Flint, I opened my studio in 2017 and I quit Comcast. So I was working at Comcast. I was working for the man. And I quit my job just because it was a lot going on, but stuff that they would tell me just wasn't right in my mind. Like, and when you're business mind, when you can get it for yourself and you hear other people kind of giving you weird rules, or someone has tenure that shouldn't, or you got a boss that shouldn't be there, one of them type of things, you tend to want to get out of those situations, especially when you know you can do it on your own. So I left and I started doing things by myself. But all that to say, in my career at photography and videography, I've helped at least, I believe it was 5 people altogether that I've called and I'm like, hey, I got some work if you want to work with me. Like, I can pay you to come help me with this wedding. I could pay you to come help me shoot. So I've had people that have came and helped me, that I've paid, that I've done tax paperwork for. And in the end of the day, I'm still by myself. And other people still do what they want to do. They still have their own thing that they do. And I don't know whether it's something, it could be something about me. I don't know. But and this is not to talk about anybody, but there's somebody that started a podcast recently. And I was like, that's cool that they started a podcast, but they're literally right next door to me. Like, I talk to these people. And so it made me think, I'm like, we already have UNS. So if we combined UNS with your resources that you already had, we could have just created something and we're already downtown. But now we're both doing the same exact thing out of the same building with the same equipment. Mr. Culpepper said, if me and him can get together and do stuff and he's in a different city, that opens up a world of opportunities just for what we have going on. So,
I have a
Yeah.
question for you, Eric, because I heard Landon and Billy both say Flint, and I know you're in Saginaw. So, do you think it's a small city issue? Because I know a lot of times smaller cities have the same kind of issues and challenges and thinking going on. Uh, what do you think about that?
I don't believe it's a small town mentality at all.
Hmm.
I don't think that's what's
You
happening
think it's
here.
just a Flint thing we're talking about?
Well, Saginaw, Flint, and Detroit, they kind of mirror each other, but Detroit is in a different, it's on another level
mm,
because, you have Black Tech Saturday. Detroit does some things that,
Right.
it's like the
But
Black
and that's
Mecca.
what I'm saying. Big cities have access to. I
Bigger
mean,
cities,
they have access to other things. They just think differently. And I guess I'm going back to being mayor. There were certain things that big cities had, big cities did that smaller cities, small and mid-sized cities wanted to do, but we didn't actually have the
well,
resources
it
to be
kind of
able to do
depends.
certain
It,
things.
yeah, it kind of depends because, in my nonprofit, we did market research. We looked at
Hmm.
different communities that were thriving, and we saw that down in Champaign, Illinois, there's a Black community that thrives down there, and it's not huge, but they are networked. It's just like Atlanta, it's like the Black Mecca. You just see more cohesion. You just see more, stick to itiveness. They work together. They're
Hmm.
thriving. So when you look at why these communities thrive so well in these Black communities, it's just one ingredient. It's just unity. They're unified in these markets. And when you find where there's a lot of discord and disconnect, you will see that, the economies are poor. You see tax base shrinking. You see like all these
Hmm.
problems that come out of it as a result. So we already know that group economics works when it's in practice. Group economics is all it is. It's just Black people cycling their dollars together. That's all it is. It's no pixie dust or no magic formula or nothing like that. It's just the ability to be able to work. So if we know somebody has a restaurant, we know somebody's got a videography studio, we know that somebody's got, a practice over here, and we're utilizing those different companies to be able to fulfill the need for us. You're cycling those dollars more in that community more so. It gives us the ability to actually generate more wealth within our community when we do that. And that's what you see in these other markets. That's what you see that's going on in Chicago. That's what you see when you go down to Atlanta. You just don't see that here in Saginaw, and you don't see it in Flint. Because to echo what Billy was saying, a lot of times, people are thinking somebody's coming to get something that they have, or
Hmm.
so it's that kind of mentality where it's like I got to get mine, you get yours. That happens a lot around here. So this is why you just don't have the cohesion here. And so when I look at other markets and I see how well they're faring, I see
Hmm.
what that key ingredient is. It's just they work together. So like when Landon was talking about going down to Tennessee, which that's where my people are from, so I can echo exactly what he's talking about. You go down there in business, you can get a lot of love. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, man, I know so and so over there. They can help you with that." Or, "Yeah, I know that." And so they start connecting the dots for each other. You don't see that happening here. When
I
you're
know you don't see it in your hometowns.
you don't
That's
see it
yeah.
around here at all. It's a
Hmm.
different type of mentality that goes on in Flint. It's every man for himself, and so that's why
why
it
is it
makes
though?
it different. You
Is it
know,
a trust thing or?
I
it's
think I
it's a
think
confidence issue. It's a confidence issue, and what I mean by that is
too.
you will have people in power that will come that look like us, optics, and they don't have our well-being or our best interests, and so you'll have, and they can be highly educated, they can be political figures, they can be, enough, and they can come in a guise that look like they're here to help us, but in reality their self-interest is somewhere else. It's not aligning with the Black community at all. So what this does is it actually tarnishes our confidence in one another. So then when you see somebody who actually is the real deal and want to try to bring us together, you just say, "Oh yeah, I've seen and heard that before."
No,
So
we
it
attack them. That's what
fuels.
we do. We attack them and we tear them down. And I'm going
It
to speak
does.
firsthand about that.
It
Yeah.
does, and it kills the
So,
ability for us to be able to be cohesive together because you don't know if somebody's intention is pure or if it's self-interest or not, and that's what kills us. That's what makes it difficult for us to be able to come together as a people,
But
and
the
that's
remedy for that is getting to know who you have in office. I mean, I was under administration, and I can tell you, people don't get involved. They don't get involved to even know who is there. So
right.
to say there's a lack of trust when you take no initiative to even know the person, be a good person or a not good person, that responsibility does fall to on the people that are in the city. You can't place all the responsibility on the person that's in office. It's up to
Yeah.
you to know if you can trust them or not.
let me add. Okay. Well, let me say this because I was thinking about something Eric was saying just a little while ago. And we were talking about group economics and us coming together. We sure came together against Target. Why was that so successful? But we can't be successful in supporting each other on these, I mean, small business is important. Small businesses are important and they make up so much of the economy. So why were we so successful with that as a people, but not these other things that we've been talking about?
Well, I think that's probably it may be because it's a different era, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you look back in the 30s and 40s, you know, uh, post integration, and I always say that, prior to integration, we had, segregation. And if you look at black communities, they thrive. Um, and I think what happened was when, the establishment seen that these black communities, the small businesses and everything that, like what Tulsa was not the only black community that was destroyed. There's
No.
over 100 cities that were actually destroyed. And so, because that, and right after that, that's when integration started. But I always call it assimilation instead of integration because to spread a people across without any upward, you know, mobility of any kind, you got assimilated. That wasn't integration. And so what it does is it disbanded the wealth in those black communities, and they spreaded narratives to make sure that that never happened again. But to answer your question, the reason that this is not happening now is because back then we were forced to have to work with each other. We were in close proximity. I remember when I was a kid. I was born in the '60s. You know, we used to have Dr. Chamberlain used to come to my house when I was a kid. He was like the only doctor in the neighborhood. He made house call. It's like you don't see stuff like that happening no more. It's like it was more close knit, is what it was. Because even back then in Saginaw, it was predominantly white, but we had a handful of black people. And then when General Motors came, then more black people started coming up to Saginaw. But before that, and so like I was a '60s kid, it was cohesion in that neighborhood. We had cohesion in our community. Like everybody knew each other. We all kind of
Mm-hmm.
we gelled together and all of that. But then if you remember the riots, Billy and Landon might be too young to understand that. But after them riots came, everything changed
Mm-hmm.
because they broke all of that up and they wanted to make sure that, black people were not cohesive like that anymore. So that we could take it was the general store mentality. So we could take our money and take it outside our communities and what have you. And so that's why you see, and once they spread that narrative, it's been perpetuated down through the generations now. We don't have that cohesiveness that we had, back in the 30s, 40s, or 50s. So,
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I was saying though. Even when people were involved, that's exactly what I was saying. When you're involved and you know who's who, like just to piggyback, and I don't know what happened to Mary Weaver, but just to piggyback off of what she was saying, you attack them. You attack the person that's in office because you don't know them because you've seen this before. But if you were involved, you would know that this is a new person with a new mission, with a new everything about them. But we're
right.
not involved anymore. And I think it goes back to what you're saying, being close knit and having cohesion. I think
Yeah.
we're saying the same thing, but in different ways.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it all goes back to that. We don't have
Right.
that anymore, but it's our responsibility to get it. You know.
Right. Right. And I agree. It has to start with us, because the disconnection that we're experiencing right now, it hasn't served us well. If we
Yeah.
look at in the past and where we're at now, if you're looking at terms of upward mobility as a people as a whole, we haven't moved not one iota on the Richter scale economically. We have pockets of wealth, but as far as overall Black people doing well and economically moving ourselves up, we're a long way to go from where we should be. Um, so yeah, we have work to do, but I think it is a psychological thing that's happening to us, like what Landon was saying. But sometimes, the trauma can be generational. So although the chains and all of that has come off of the body, sometimes you still have, you know, a reformation in mentality. You still have that mentality where it's like, I have to get mine, you got to get yours, and things. And so that keeps us separated from each other. And
Mhm.
so other people are going to benefit from that dynamic other than us. As long as we remain that way, the establishment is going to win and we're going to always be underfoot. It's going to be harder for us to come up together if we're not, forging these alliances.